No, I want Pinot Grigio. Yeah,
it's a Christmas party type of drink.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, exactly. And it's also a drink where I can be social, but it's not going to get me sloppy. I'm at work.
Yeah.
I'm at work, and
yeah, it's a good drink to endear you to the little people.
Yes.
Pinot Grigio.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah, it's a drink of the people.
Yeah. It's a very board of directors.
Yeah, it is what it is. I like it. No, everyone's whatever. I'm
yummy.
I do drink as if I'm a Bravo housewife. I mean, there's no question about that. That is my.
It's all about accepting it and admitting it.
Well, the issue is that when you drink wine, you chase it with Diet Coke, which is absolutely repulsive.
I know.
It's untenable.
It's very
absolutely untenable.
I
would really have that looked into.
This is fair.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Happy Friday. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. Connor Rodgers, Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, fellas.
Pinot Matty.
Yeah, there we go.
Now, make no mistake, I want to be clear about this. When I drink beer, I enjoy Bud Light, but at a holiday party, I felt,
Diet Grigio.
I felt a little, Catalina wine mixer. Yeah,
very much so.
I wanted to get my Pinot on. Yeah, I'm open. Listen, I'm a Bud Light guy, but my Pinot Grigio endorsement is open. Your wine here
could be right.
I'm just saying,
bottle here,
1,000%. So anyone out there that produces a good Pinot Grigio, please get in touch.
Or a bad one. We don't distinguish.
That's actually true. We don't. Certainly, I don't.
You don't discriminate.
Yeah, I'm not some sommelier. Like I don't have.
You're really not.
You can't even say the word.
Yeah.
Sommelier. It's the word.
Listen, Renaissance. I don't want to hear it from you about pronunciation.
Oh man, that is
Sommelier.
good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a linebacker for the 49ers? Because it's not the description of a man who knows one.
I don't know if he would have went in last night. That was the whole issue as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're going to recap
right.
that game
How do you
in just a
pronounce
moment.
Sommelier.
Sommelier?
I don't know if that's how. Is that how Americans pronounce it? Well, no, there might be. We go through the Australian.
It's the Queen's English pronunciation.
Well, okay,
the Queen rules.
Renaissance.
I'm not going to pretend like Americans have the best grasp of the English
we don't
language,
either. But I was under the impression, and I'm obviously not a highfalutin wine guy. I'm a man of the people. My big thing on wine is to chug it down and ask for more. Like some people do and then they smell it and they smell. No, I'm just like,
Smelling wine's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's when I'm at a table and I see someone do that, I'm like, this is gonna be a tough one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sommelier.
Sommelier.
Can we have control room clarification on this?
Yeah. Back to producer
okay, Jameis, right.
Sommelier. I can't do it. You do it. You're good.
Sommelier?
Sommelier is a song by the Chainsmokers. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, we got a great show, despite all of our early struggles here.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Good God, Barry, stop talking about wine people and get to football. But I have news for you. As bad as that was, the game last night was worse.
It was. And we're going to recap that game. Denny Carter's going to join us today, by the way. What the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. You've been here long enough. You know what Fridays are like. We're going to preview some of the highest scoring games or expectations for Week 15. But let's get into that 12-6 Rams win over the 49ers with our Roto-World player news. A monsoon, Matthew.
And what's weird,
monsoon.
And I heard no one talking about this weather at all. Jay, the line didn't move at all either.
No, it didn't. To be fair, the weather was a factor clearly in the first half. It shouldn't have been that much of a factor, though. I think that Stafford and Purdy were just playing really poorly, and that accentuated the conditions. But no, I wasn't expecting a 12-6 game for the game that had the second highest total of the week.
You see it there on your screen. Puka, Kyron, Guerendo, and Kittle all were passable. Not the games you would hope from any of them, other than maybe Puka. But everyone else, they were passable. But everyone else, Purdy, Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Stafford, brutal. Cooper Kupp. Yeah, Purdy was absolutely awful. As you see it there at the bottom of your screen, the first game without a catch for my little Cooper Kupp since 2019. Let's get into that. It was just an ugly, awful game. Normally, sometimes I fall asleep after I've had a little bit too much Pinot Grigio. I'm on the couch watching these games and I snooze a little bit. This one, it wasn't alcohol induced. It was just a terrible, boring game, and I had to wake up. The one thing I really like about the Amazon games is though you can start from the beginning, you can rewind, you can pause. Like I do enjoy watching the game on the streaming networks for that purpose. The other thing that I just want to bring up, and then we'll get into like the player performance here, but once again, that little theory that me and my buddy have, when a team with a winning record is getting points from a team with a losing record, you take the points, you take the team. And once again, the Rams were underdogs in this game. The Rams that have a winning record, I believe, went off at 2.5-point underdogs. Went off as 2.5-point underdogs to San Francisco, who had a losing record going into this game. That record is 8-3. If you just did nothing but bet that, that's 8-3 this season. Mostly thanks to the Jets being favored and constantly losing.
It's a way to make money. That's why I followed that pathway in this game. Rams +3, easy cash. Rams money line.
Was it 3 or 2.5 that went off?
I got it at 3. I think it
closed.
closed.
Like a juice 3.
It might have closed at 2.5. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you took Rams money line, you did really well.
That was your best bet.
Plus
was
3.
Rams +3, and that obviously cashed as well. Our best bets did not, Jay.
No. But you got in at the buzzer, I thought.
Did he? I thought it was in the second half. Did he have?
Yours was Deebo Samuel 10+ yards in the first quarter.
In the first quarter.
The last play of the first quarter. I couldn't believe our group wasn't texting about this, so I thought I was wrong, so I didn't text about this.
I thought so
they
too.
throw Deebo a screen. He's already got 5 yards.
Right.
He falls forward for the 5th yard, and I checked the box score. It was 10 yards after the first quarter.
Oh, okay. I thought
at the literally the buzzer.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go. I didn't think I hit the bet. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, so 2 for
That's
3.
good. 2 for 3.
Yeah. Well, my bet lost.
You've been sizzling for about 5 weeks now, to be fair.
Yes.
I know our guy that tracks the bets had messaged me. You were on a wild run.
Wasn't expecting 7 punts in the first quarter of Rams 49ers.
Some good punts.
Yeah.
Some damn good punting.
Punts. You had the Rams team total, obviously. The teams combined didn't get to the Rams team total. It just an ugly, brutal game here, guys. Do you guys want to talk about the little that's good or everything that's bad?
Let's go through the bad first, because Cooper Kupp managers, you drink for free today. I mean, my God, if you're in the fantasy playoffs, well, I don't know if we should clap. We're clapping because,
it's just awful. By the way, I'm one of the people that drink for free. I'm in a dynasty league. I'll say that. So I'm in a dynasty league with a bunch of my former ESPN friends, my former colleagues. They're still my friends. They're not my former friends. They're still my friends, but my former ESPN colleagues. And I'm in a playoff matchup against Mike Clay, and in our dynasty league. And I have been building this team slowly. I have Cooper Kupp. Mike Clay has Puka Nacua. Good times.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm off. We're evenly projected. He has a really good team. My team is really good as well. Would have helped if I hadn't lost Chris McCaffrey in that league. But anyway, we'll see how that plays out. But yes, as we sit here today, I'm down because Mike had Puka and I had Cooper Kupp.
One of my favorite ever betting memories was betting on Cooper Kupp to win Super Bowl MVP plus 800 the year of Rams Bengals. I'm at the game at SoFi, see Kupp catching the game-winning touchdown in the end zone. Never take that away from me. One of the great betting moments. I reckon I lost about 15% of my goodwill to Cooper Kupp after last night because he's on my team against Big Show. And the thing is not that he put up a goose egg. It's like there's never even a sniff. He had nothing. He had a few targets. The ball wasn't near him. And he was just a complete non-entity. It felt like there was a point where McVay just decided, we're just not losing this game through the air. We'll just run the ball.
And here's your matchup against Big Show. So you were very similar to me against Mike Clay. You have Cooper Kupp. Big Show had Puka. You also had George Kittle, and you get you get 10 points out of Kittle. That's fine for a tight end. Yeah, I mean this was not good. Not a good day at the office for the Grape Slappers.
No, and now I'm in a position where, having gotten 0 from Kupp, the Guerendo effectively meets his projection, but now I'm playing from behind, so now in variance. So I picked up Tommy DeVito, and I think I'm going to start Tommy DeVito over Russell Wilson, because I don't know where the upside comes from with Russ. At least Tommy DeVito could be in a blowout and be running around and throwing junk time to Malik Neighbors. I feel better about Tommy DeVito putting up 20 points than I do. Who's Russ throwing to? Where are the 20 points coming from?
With no Pickens, because we're not expecting him to play. Right.
Against a really good Eagles defense.
He's not going to run around, but could there be junk time for DeVito? They're 16.5-point underdogs to the Ravens at this point. Their secondary is beat up. Right. Could he get a long one to Malik Neighbors? Could he run around? Could he get you 40 yards rushing? Yeah. Could he fall into the end zone?
He's bad, but he could be fantasy-friendly bad.
Yes, 1,000% correct, and you're welcome, because I had Tommy DeVito, and I waived him. Last week because it was a bye, and I had I was starting Drew Lock, and I just needed the roster spot. I didn't need 2 Giants quarterbacks, and now I have Josh Allen and Jaden Daniels back for this week. Where we're on a bye. This
is how it's gone for the Grape Slappers. We were the 07 Patriots at mid-season, an absolute juggernaut, and then Connors screwed me. because he traded me Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Connor is a plant,
Yeah.
a Big Show plant.
Yeah. You saved my
I've given
fantasy
him
season.
Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, would be very welcome to be started over Tommy DeVito this
It's really
week.
funny.
And this is how it's gone. From 07 Patriots, losing in the, I'm not even going to make the Super Bowl. Yeah, basically, yeah. Now I'm current Patriot. Now I'm relying on Tommy DeVito.
That
This
is
unbelievable.
actually ridiculous.
It's a juggernaut.
Big Show reminded me we are the tracksuit mafia. You don't make trades with the tracksuit mafia. I mean, it is hilarious that
You traded with J.K. Dobbins. It's on IR.
You were starting Tommy DeVito in the playoffs, and I have to pick between Herbert, Darnold, and Baker Mayfield, 2 of the 3.
Unbelievable. Fantasy Life commenter. Looking
demon.
good. The Grape Slappers, not so much. We'll see if you can mount a comeback against Big Show. We'll track that quickly. But Cooper Kupp just mind-boggling, right? 11.5% target share. It's his only second game this year with under 20%. 2019 against Pittsburgh. Week 10 of 2019 against Pittsburgh. That's the only other time in Cooper Kupp's career where he's had 0 receptions and 0 fantasy points. Just like a brutal game any week of the season, but to do it this week in a great matchup. Week 15, the first week of the fantasy playoffs is just awful. I mean, you guys know I love Cooper Kupp, but this was bad. This is really, really bad.
It's kind of a bad feeling after the first 2 drives where Stafford should have been picked on both of them.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like everyone's going to focus on Purdy, and we'll get to Purdy, and Purdy was horrific. Stafford was just as bad
The first half
in the
was-
first half.
was
And everyone's kind of
unwatchable.
like, it's all washed away because they won the game. He was horrendous
Yeah.
in the first half. It's not just he was missing, he's missing.
No,
Like,
it was
I don't know what
dropped
Hufanga was doing. I guess
Well,
it's
he
just
couldn't
the
believe
club.
the ball was just hit him in the chest.
There was another one. Like, Stafford was a 0 out of 10 in the first half, and then they kind of got right, and he has the big throw to Puka, but just a disaster all round offensively, and in a way that cannot just be explained by the weather. Like, the weather was a factor. The weather doesn't mean that Matthew Stafford has to throw the ball directly to Hufanga like that.
So did to start the game.
Yeah.
The monsoon really picked up in the second quarter, not the first quarter.
Yeah, and also, first quarter was fine. Second half was fine as well.
Right,
It's no weather in the second. It was like
70% of the game was
Yeah.
okay.
But I think given how bad Stafford looked, and given like the weather, and given like a fact that the game was 12-6, it just makes what Puka Nacua did even more impressive. Since he returned from IR in Week 6, this guy's the 4th best wide receiver in fantasy football. Puts up almost 18 fantasy points in a game where they didn't score a touchdown. And so 7 for 97. He gets the 2 runs for 11 yards as well. And so Puka's had over 100 total yards in 4 of the past 5 games. So for him to put up fantasy production in a game in which almost no one else did, just sort of solidifies him, I think, as a top 5 overall pick next year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's Jefferson, Chase, Puka, and CD, and they're tier 1 by themselves. Then it's a big drop-off. Like, A.J. Brown doesn't get to be in that top tier anymore with how that
Amon-Ra
team's
St.
operating.
Brown doesn't with the way that the Lions spread the ball. You're right.
You know who the dark horse will be? And he's not there yet, I want to be clear. But if the
Neighbors?
Giants get a real quarterback, it's Malik Neighbors. Because he could be the CD Lamb of that offense. That's the target share. But you're right,
Also,
you don't know what they have right now.
I'm not sure, like, Brian Thomas is that far from being potentially
With a
in
healthy
that kind
Trevor
of
Lawrence
route.
and more
Because
targets?
Brian Lawrence has been screwed out about 400 yards this year between
Brian Thomas,
penalties. I think that Brian Thomas, maybe next year is too early, but I think he will eventually become that kind of guy in the league.
He's on his way. Him, Lad McConkey, who of course has been McConkulous all year long. It hasn't been as much of a rookie explosion as we thought, Connor.
It's good,
but
though.
It feels like there's a number of hits. And I think Harrison will ultimately get there as well.
And he's been fine. We just thought he'd be great. That's the problem with that. Where you drafted him, you expected him to be great.
Marvin Harrison. Be great for him to show up for the Grape Slappers. Marvin Harrison's been on a relative milk carton all season. Need for the milk carton to explode into touchdowns.
I think he has a big game this week. He was on the love list this week. I think you get a good game from Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think people, including me, that are starting Kyler Murray in their fantasy matchups will get up. I have Kyler Murray on that same dynasty team that I have Cooper Kupp, so I need Kyler, man. Come on, I've been with you all season. I'm a begging, please. Big game, Kyler.
49ers side, it wasn't all terrible, just not a lot of great. Isaac Guerendo, if you were bold enough to start him, he got you over 11 fantasy points because of the receptions, Matthew. That was the key that kept him at least okay.
Yeah, I mean, listen, in a game in which they scored 6 points, like there's not so much. I think you can be. If I had told you before the game, Isaac Guerendo's getting 20 touches in this game, you'd have signed up for that ASAP. He got 20 touches. Like the concern on Guerendo was, is he healthy? Is he going to get used? Is he going to sprain his foot on the second play and leave again, which we've seen from McCaffrey and Jordan Mason multiple times this year where they get hurt early in a game. And so Guerendo held up I mean, and I think
ran hard for what was there.
Yeah, I mean, just there wasn't anything there, but like, there's been 2 games since Chris McCaffrey went on IR. He's got 37 touches. He's got a double-digit target share in this offense, and so I do think that if you manage to survive this week, you feel good about Guerendo, who will have 10 days as well. Like, he didn't look unhealthy to me.
No.
He just wasn't, able to get anything
week
going
injury.
because the offense was brutal.
Yep. George Kittle was fine, did his job, 4 for 61, looked like George Kittle. Disappointing game for Juwan Jennings. I mean, the story really is that Purdy was just horrific. And the irony is this 49ers season, which is almost comical in how much it's been the season from hell with the amount of injuries. And all season, the offense has been fine. It's been good enough all season. They've been undone by the injuries on defense and by special teams. This game, special teams was fine. Jake Moody hits a 50-yarder. Yeah. They did their job. Defense was great. Dre Greenlaw is out there flying around. Bosa's back. Hufunga's making plays. Defense was awesome. And then the offense just completely breaks down. As soon as they go right, then Purdy has his worst game since Christmas last year.
Yeah, he does. He was 1 for 10 on deep passes.
Is that bad?
Yeah, it's not good. It was his season low in completion percentage, not surprising. And he now has had under 4 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games. Like, we sort of wrote off the first one because it was like, well, that was a blizzard at Buffalo. And now again, like, I'll be honest, like, I will own this. I started Brock Purdy in a playoff league over Tua Tagovailoa. I had him higher in my rankings. I thought this was a better game environment. I thought this was, based on what we saw last week from both these offenses, I thought this would be a shootout. And obviously, I am massively regretting that decision. But the numbers said what the numbers said in terms of the projections, in terms of my numbers. And by the way, a lot of smart people that I respect also had Purdy ranked higher than Tua. Just bad day at the office for Brock Purdy. But maybe he's just not good in weather. I'm going to own the fact that, like, I did not think there was going to be a monsoon there. Like, I didn't see anything about the weather. I didn't pay attention to it. Like, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, the weather, like we said, like, it's a factor. It doesn't explain how bad he was, but I agree. Like, when you look at his worst games outside of the Christmas game last year, I mean, he was dreadful against Cleveland last year, where it's like he couldn't grip the ball. He was really bad in the first half against the Packers in that playoff game, where again it was wet. So I don't know if it's just something where it's almost like the rain stayed with him after it left because it was in his head how poorly he was playing. But really disappointing game. Do you think he's definitely the quarterback next year in San Francisco?
I do, just because I think Shanahan loves him.
Yeah.
And
there's just no alternative.
There's no alternative. They really like him there. I don't think they'll look at these small sample
and
bad
overall,
games.
it's been a good season for him.
Overall, it's been really good. And by the way, they have him on the most ridiculous rookie deal of all time. I mean, this is a guy that was a day 3. Yeah, he will be, but
it's coming this summer.
You think so?
Yeah, they're gonna get that done this spring. I think so.
So I'm just wondering, like whether you want to.
But my point is like you could, because they have the deals with they did the deal with Ayuk. They did the deal with Trent.
Trent Williams last night. I thought the Rams pass rush wasn't great in the first half, but you saw it get going a lot in the second half.
Yeah. By the way,
I wonder if they regret letting Darnold go. They had Sam Darnold, and
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure they're that different at this point. I mean, it's so tough to know because of context, like Darnold now in a really good situation too. And I still believe in Purdy. I still think Purdy has more upside than Darnold because he is younger and his ability to move around. And also, like, he was minus 250 to win MVP this time last season. So he has shown massive upside. But on the pass rush thing, just another reminder, like on those Hail Mary attempts, send 4. It seems to work every single time.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's just so difficult.
He had no chance.
Yeah.
Couldn't even get the ball
out. Gone, so. Well played by the Rams at the end there.
Last thing for me on this one, and I will talk about this next week, as we get into next week in terms of whether you can trust Purdy again, whether you can trust Guerendo, all these guys, whether you can trust Cooper Kupp. I'll tell you one game that you definitely can't trust, and that's Deebo Samuel. We thought that, I guess I didn't think the bet cashed. I thought I lost it. Like I thought it was, so I'm glad that did cash because the 2 bets that we brought up yesterday, I was just like, to get a reception on the first drive, and to get 10. And my bet that I gave out yesterday was 10 yards receiving for Deebo Samuel in the first quarter, which ended up cashing. So
this one you didn't know because that celebration would have been like it was the last play of the first quarter, and he got it by a yard.
Yeah, I did.
I was like, oh, Matthew's probably just screaming wherever he is watching this game right now.
Because I
thought you lost.
Like I told you, I watched it late. Like I just, so I wasn't I wasn't paying attention. It
was a very anticlimactic play. Like it was a screen, and he took 3 steps forward and just told what we used to tell Rashad White to he fell forward, and that was it. He got it by a yard.
Yeah. So
all cash is the same.
It all counts the same, so it's great. Yeah, I for some reason I thought that it had cashed in the second. I thought that play was like the first play of the second quarter. For some reason, it just had my head. So I'm thrilled to get a win that I didn't know that I had coming in this morning. Never in doubt. Never in doubt. Trust your old pal Matty. But
Matty Pino.
Exactly, Pino Matty. But Deebo Samuel, despite and they tried. By the way, the very first play was a target to Deebo, and he didn't do it. We love Deebo Samuel here. He's a friend of the show. He's been on multiple times, but he looks done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the drama going into this game was the tweet that was deleted where he said, not struggling at all, just not getting the ball.
And by the way,
they tried to.
By the way, then he got community noted. After this, he got community noted. After this tweet, he got community noted where they're like, he leads the team in drops. He is struggling. And going into this game, he led the team in drops, and so he was struggling. So he got community noted. And, he had multiple drops in this game, too. Like, he had the bad one, too, on the crosser that Purdy hits him. And, if he catches that, that's potentially a touchdown, and that's
they probably win the game if he catches that and he holds on.
And the stadium was loudly booing after that, it was a little jarring.
It honestly reminded me of watching Zach Wilson a couple of years ago, where it's just he's has the yips as a receiver.
Yeah.
It seemed to be really in his head. Just a catastrophic night for Deebo all around. And also the other thing too is it's not just the drop. It's that he's just not getting separation. They're showing the routes that he's running. He's just not separating like he used to.
Fifth straight game with under 77 fantasy points. Under 7 fantasy points for 5 straight games. Deebo Samuel, since week 11, is wide receiver 88 in fantasy points per game. Wide receiver 88. I mean, I don't think you could name 87 wide receivers.
Right, that's a good game.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it now.
All right, let's
Sorry,
do it
Denny.
now. Sorry, Pete. We're going to blow up the,
Jalen Coker.
Yeah, anyway. So, you're not starting Deebo anytime soon.
Let's look at the Week 15 injuries that we're tracking. Breece Hall didn't practice again, by the way, with that knee injury, so have a contingency plan ready to go. Hopefully it's Isaiah Davis or Braylon Allen. Alvin Kamara didn't practice again with an illness, although we've seen players come out quickly from that kind of injury designation. Kenneth Walker with the calf injury, Tony Pollard with an ankle, missed the first 2 practices of this week. Didn't seem serious, but now I would closely monitor Tony Pollard. DeAndre Swift with a groin injury, Bucky Irving still with the back.
Yeah, that's another one that you want to monitor. He played last week, but again, is he fully there? Worth noting, you see Mike Evans on this list with a hamstring. He was spotted at practice today, so that's a good sign.
It's a typical – Mike Evans has been doing this for a couple weeks now. You don't see much of him early in the week. He gets the Friday work in. He's good to go. George Pickens isn't playing with the hamstring, as we've said many times. David Njoku with the hamstring. Evan Engram is out for the year with the shoulder injury, so Evan Engram will be shut down. Jacksonville's skeleton offense is getting more and more thin.
Brenton Strange time. Let's go.
Yeah, strange being the operative word there.
So.
I think that's also indicative of the fact that this is where the Jags are now. If guys have lingering injuries, they're just not going to play. You're just going to shut them down. They want the number 1 pick.
For sure.
They're probably not going to get the number 1 pick after last week.
They'll throw Brian Thomas out there, and Parker Washington maybe gets more looks as well if you're in a deeper league. But you'd have to be pretty desperate. You'd have to be grape slapper level of desperate to consider anyone.
DeVito. Cutlet desperate.
Cutlet,
Is there a more interesting non-quarterback you could play over him in that spot on your roster?
No, it's
he could have a 3-point day.
I know. I need the upside, though. I got to play the quarterback.
I get it.
My alternatives are Kate Otten.
No, I get it.
I think I'm going to have to start Travis Etienne over. That's my other decision, Otten or Etienne. My team was a juggernaut. Where are all my good players? I had Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Jordan Mason was lighting the world on fire.
I think you upset the fantasy gods.
You know what I know?
Your hubris upset the fantasy gods. You hadn't won anything, and yet you were still bragging like you had. You didn't act like you'd been there before. You know what I mean? You got to just sort of calm, like me. You know how I'm always I'm super low key about it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of hubris, or at least the word that sounds like hubris, I need the tubular. To get it done. I need him to put me on his back, on his sweet chubby back, and carry me to fantasy goodness. I need 28 points out of the tubular.
That's fair.
That's all I've got left.
That's a fair ask.
He could do it against Dallas.
Yes, he can.
Yeah, no, it's not insane.
You laugh about the tubular. I'm not laughing. I'm dead serious.
He might have 26 touches.
I need it. I need them all.
I have the tubular on that dynasty team where I'm playing Mike Glay, and so I'm hoping Hubbard also has a monster game to make up for my Cooper Kupp 0.
Joe Mixon as well. little 4-touchdown performance out of ISO Joe would be appreciated too. So
one last bit of injury news. It's good news. Hollywood Brown with his shoulder injury, he's received clearance to practice. Matthew, probably not fantasy relevant, more NFL relevant.
yeah, but another weapon for Mahomes, which is good if you've been rostering Mahomes, you know, and starting him. So I think that's good, and I don't mind picking him up and just to sort of see. You know, like if he has a significant role here, you'd want to see it first before you start him, especially in a fantasy playoff game. But talented player, and if he has a significant role, you know, right from the get-go, okay.
You just watch. This is his second year on the road. The Chiefs suck all season long. I know they have one loss. They haven't been good this season. Now they're going to win the Super Bowl again.
Of course they are.
Everyone's going to get healthy and they'll win.
Some top waiver ads. These guys are available in at least 50% of leagues right now. We talked about
need as the injuries are going along. If you just need
plays.
If you're like a Jay Croucher.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers against Jacksonville. Jameis Winston just because of the sheer volume that he throws at. Isaiah Davis we brought up because Breece Hall is not looking better by the day.
15% target share and 48% of the Jets' rushes with Hall out last week for Isaiah Davis.
Cedric Tillman is back in a limited capacity. He was in concussion protocol for a couple weeks.
Yeah, but his four previous full games, he was averaging over 18 fantasy points per game with Winston. Hard to say whether, you know, now that Judy's sort of taken over that role. You see Elijah Moore on that screen as well. Chiefs have allowed the most yards and most receptions in the slot. Elijah Moore is the slot guy for famous Jameis. And Sincere McCormick, who is actually a running back and not a Key and Peele sketch character, got 17 of the Raiders' 19 running back carries last week. He's averaging over 5 yards per carry this season. And Antonio Pierce came out and said, like, that's our guy. He might be this year's Zamir White, just a guy they ride down the stretch.
All right, as we do every Friday, we welcome in Denny Carter for what the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. But before we do, we have our usual Denny highlight reel from the week.
What is the third, maybe most traditional, frankly, maybe still most effective method if you are an alpha wideout, absolutely dying for more targets?
This one's straightforward and very easily done. You simply change your social media avatar to the Joker, and you're done. And you've sent a message. Now, you know, depending on how unhappy you are with your role in the offense, you're going to want to choose the right Joker. Okay. You know, and so I would say that if you are maximally unhappy with how you're being used as a wide receiver, you just go ahead with the Heath Ledger Joker. If you really want to get crazy, and this could backfire, but if you really want to get crazy, you go ahead and post the Jack Nicholson Joker or the Joker from the 1960 show played by Cesar Romero.
Yes.
Oh,
Cesar Romero.
10 out of 10 pull, Denny. 10 out of 10. How are you?
Relief guy from the Angels.
Yeah, I'm good. Look, we're here to help. At Galaxy Brains, me and RotoPet, we want to help receivers get more targets, and that's one way to do it.
Denny, I would like you, because I know, you do a great job contributing to the show, but I know, I've heard behind the scenes that you want more airtime, so I feel like you should change your avatar to Cesar Romero's Joker. And I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, don't test me. Don't test me, Barry. I'll do it. I'll do it today.
As well you should, Denny. I fight for you to get more airtime, but it's Connor that's blocking you. Just so you know, it's
Denny.
Connor Rodgers. What are you gonna do? But listen, Denny, I know you are out there. I know you are out there desperately scouring the dark web, going down rabbit holes, trying to find the information that the mainstream media just will not tell us about. And what have you uncovered for us this week?
I've uncovered a pretty deep cut here, guys. There's a guy who plays for the Chargers. His name is Stone Smartt with 2 T's, not one. Let's get it right. It's 2 T's. It's not 3 T's. It's just 2. But Stone Smartt, he's going to be the primary route running, pass catching tight end this week, most likely against the Bucs, with Will Dissly out of the lineup with a shoulder injury. Now, this is a good spot for Smartt with 2 T's. Who last week caught 3 passes for 54 yards in very limited usage following the Dissly injury. It's also a good spot because the Chargers take on a pass funnel Bucs defense. No one really tries to run it against Tampa because their secondary has been so bad, especially over the past 4 to 6 weeks. So if you want to do your own thing and not follow the mainstream media narrative, you play Stone Smartt this week.
Yeah, Denny, it's a great call because I read the Wall Street Journal cover to cover every day this week, and they didn't mention Stone Smartt once. right?
Where is he?
I know they didn't mention the fact that he had a 25% target share and 80% route participation in the second half of last week when he replaced Will Dissly as well. So I like the call, Denny. I don't know why America is trying to hide Stone Smartt from us.
People actually don't realize, too, that there's a little quirk where every time he scores a touchdown, he gets to add another T to the end of his name. Yeah, so he could be Stone Smartt by the end of the season.
It's good.
A guy who doesn't have that luxury, Denny, is Noah Gray, who continues to be part of our lives. Can you tell us more about Noah Gray? Because I read very little about him.
Yeah, look, Noah Gray, of course, not mentioned in the Washington Post this week. What can you do? The Chiefs are playing a lot of 2 tight end sets over the past month or so, which means that Noah Gray is on the field running more routes than usual. He has 4 receptions in each of Kansas City's past 4 games. He's been targeted on about 20% of his routes over that time, which, look, it's not great, but it's something. It's something for a tight end. And I just want to say, the Kansas City offensive line has created a situation here against a ferocious Cleveland pass rush where I think Mahomes is going to have to just check it down time and time and time again. And that usually means, and the mainstream media won't tell you this, Travis Kelce season and Noah Gray season, along with the running backs getting a bunch of check down. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gray catches another 4 or 5 balls this week.
Denny, I understand why there's not a lot of coverage around the Jacksonville Jaguars. Smaller market, not a great season, really disappointing. Their star quarterback, or expected to be a star quarterback, is out for the year. But nobody's talking about what's going on in this backfield with Tank Bigsby right now.
Nobody. And Jay apparently is not paying attention because he still has Travis Etienne, whoever that, I've never heard of him. But, Etienne last week only had 4 carries to Tank Bigsby's 18 carries against Tennessee. Tank Bigsby got into the end zone. Now, they play a Jets team that, defensively not very good, as Connor knows, but actually have been good against the run. What you're hoping for here is another high-volume game for Tank Bigsby, and maybe he gets those high-value touches inside the 10, inside the 5, in a slow-paced, sort of a slog sort of game. I think you could do a lot worse than Tank Bigsby.
For sure. In a lot of different categories, too. You could do worse than Tank Bigsby in a lot of different categories, right?
Of life?
Of life, of co-host for a show, whatever you want. The only concern on Tank for me, though, is just that I feel like he's a little bit game script dependent, that if the Jets offense if Rodgers looks good, if they start rolling, that he just won't be used in the passing game as well. There's a little bit of risk there in terms of if the Jets do well against Jacksonville, which they could, their offense looked better last week, then, you could see Bigsby getting game scripted out a little bit. Yeah.
Vicious stray shot at my man Travis Etienne, who I proudly drafted in the 3rd round in the League of A-holes. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Denny, do you want to weigh in on the grape slappers? Well, he may have to start Tommy DeVito or Russell Wilson today at his second quarterback spot.
I need upside, Denny. I need upside.
Yeah, well, the fact that you're locked in, you seem locked into DeVito, and I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
I'd go with Russ.
Cutlets runs around.
Yeah, you go with Russ?
You gotta go with Russ. Connor's right. You're talking about potentially a 2-point floor for DeVito here. So
that's fine.
I think you go with Russ. You hope that he runs around a little bit. You hope that the Eagles push the Steelers into some sort of pass-heavy script. We've seen it before. I think I'd go with Russ.
Okay, well, that's 2.4 that you were late. That's 2.4 more than Cooper Kupp gave me last night, so I'm in a world of trouble. I'm literally looking around on the waiver wire. I'm like, do I pick up Mike Williams to start over Travis Etienne? Kendrick Bourne over Travis Etienne? These are real discussions that I'm going to have with myself over the next 72 hours.
Yeah,
it's dark.
It's weird. Yeah, it's a shame because it's interesting. This is the one subject that the mainstream media will cover. Is how Jay's team is completely falling apart in our league.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Jay. It's too much scrutiny on one guy, if you ask me.
I disagree.
I'm like the Eagles from last year. So I need to sign Saquon Barkley in the offseason and get right for 2025.
Denny, in the spirit of little Friday the 13th action, I've been told our control room has a surprise for you here that I'm excited to see. Yeah, so, you believe this? They're still working on it, Denny.
We've got backup producer Pete.
They make the graphics during the segment.
Yeah. It is what it is.
It'll be here soon.
Well, I'm a big fan of the franchises, as people online know. So I'm looking forward to seeing it whenever it comes out.
Yeah. We appreciate that, Denny. Any other thoughts that you had, because you didn't get a chance to weigh in on last night's game. I don't know if you had any thoughts, because the mainstream media won't cover how badly Cooper Kupp played. Yeah.
Or the weather.
Yeah.
Or the weather.
And you can hear my dog actually is upset over Cooper Kupp's performance last night. That's why he's barking. There you go. Hey, look at that. I have a Joker.
This is pretty good. This is worth the wait.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
The
production values are off the roof.
By the way, hang on for a second. You've got 18,000 followers on Blue Sky. Look at you. You're blowing up.
I do.
Yeah, how many posts have you
It's
have?
almost 10,000 posts.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Good God.
You cannot stop posting.
Apparently not. Like, I'm on Blue Sky. I went over and signed up, but I'm, and I post once a day, I think, maybe something like that. I'm not super active. I'm not super active on social media, but I do have, if anyone would like to follow me on Blue Sky, I'm on all forms of social media, including Blue Sky, at Matthew Berry TMR. You're at CD Carter 13 on all forms of social media, I believe.
It's changed it at Denny Carter, and if you
really?
if you get that wrong, I'm gonna have to go with the Heath Ledger Joker, man.
Oh my God! I didn't. When you changed to when is this on Twitter as well? You've changed everywhere.
No, not yet. But that's we're working on that. We're looking into it strongly.
Going to the right
social
channels.
media interns.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. You're taking it under advisement. I feel like the CD Carter 13 is such a strong brand that you would.
I know,
I'm surprised you
it
want to
is.
go from to at Denny Carter. I'm also surprised it's
Time to
available.
move on. I think time to move on
It's a
from
new
it.
era.
We're shifting. We're making a shift.
Denny, thank you so much, as always, for joining us on this Friday. As always, go to NBCSports.com/fantasy, where you could read Denny Carter's funnel defense report. We're taking our first break. When we're back, we preview some of the games with the highest totals going into the weekend. What's on tap is next. It's an NFC battle in the Pacific Northwest on Sunday night when Jordan Love and the Packers square off with Geno Smith and the Seahawks. Coverage of the matchups begins at 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC and Peacock. What's on Tap is brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here's the highest point totals going into the weekend. Sundays are easy to enjoy where they are full of football and the fridge is filled with beer. These are the games we're locking in on, guys, and we're going to start with the highest point total of the season. That is the Bills at the Lions. The Lions are favored by 2.5 points at home, but more importantly, the over-under in this game is 54.5. Matthew, any concern for James Cook after last week? He's had some monster touchdown performances, but it was the Josh Allen show against the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen handled 100% of the red zone and goal line rush attempts last week. Not just the goal line, but also red zone rush attempts. It's not a great matchup. Over the last 4 weeks, no team allows fewer fantasy points to opposing running backs than the Detroit Lions. Having said that, so lower expectations a little bit. He's my running back 19. And I will tell you that I have James Cook in a couple leagues, and I'm starting him in every league that I have him in. Like over the previous 5 games, he's averaging almost 19 fantasy points per game. He's got 11 rushing touchdowns this season. 11, right? There are 3 running backs that have more. Only 3 running backs. So I think, given the high over/under of this game, given how good he's been, given the fact that they use him somewhat in the passing game as well, again, lower expectations, but I get the concern. I think you still have to go back to James Cook.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a no-brainer in a game that has this high of a total. And also, as good as the Detroit run defense has been, their D-line is still really banged up overall, so they should be more vulnerable on the ground than their season-long stats would imply.
Did it mean anything to you what the Bills offense did to the Rams, and then the following week the Niners couldn't get anything going against them? And I understand the weather. I understand that. But like we talked about, it wasn't just a monsoon for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Did that, kind of tell you anything about what could happen in this matchup? Because the expectations are season high here.
Yeah, no, I think it is instructive somewhat. I do also think that a lot of the Bills' production against the Rams was yak and just some really poor Rams tackling after the catch, particularly with Khalil Shakir. So I don't think this means that the Bills are like the number 1 offense in football by margin, which you might think if you just looked at how they played against the Rams than how the 49ers played. Also, Josh Allen's just a lot better than Brock Purdy, and I think that kind of manifested in these past 2 weeks as we saw. So, look, it's going to be an interesting matchup overall because the Lions' defense, they play a ton of man coverage. They blitz a lot. It is very high variance. I think there could be some explosive plays. We're going to see Terry and Arnold one-on-one down the field with Amari Cooper. So I do think that the Bills will have success through the air, but also I just think there are going to be so many points in this game, and they're going to be in scoring position so much.
That's a question for you, because the line is 54.5, as we mentioned. But over the last 4 weeks, the Bills are the 6th best pass defense in the NFL, and the Lions are the 4th best pass defense in the NFL. No, I understand. The numbers are the numbers. Like, in some of it's again, like the Bills playing that. Yeah, the Bills playing that. The snow game and that lower. So it's skewed by some of those games. But my question is do you think? Could you see Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson saying, like, we're going to run Knuckles and Sonic, but whatever, we're going to run
Sonic and Knuckles,
whatever, doesn't matter. But we're going to run Montgomery and Gibbs, right, and just try to take the Bills out of this, try to keep Josh Allen off the field. Could you see the under hitting in this game that both teams actually try to go to a run heavy script?
Yeah, it's certainly possible that would be the way to lean into it. At the same time, I just think there are going to be so many explosive plays on offer, even if they are running. It's not like the Lions are a grinded out run for 5 yards a carry. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most explosive runners in football. And then on the other side, I think Josh Allen, with the level that he's playing at, it's just difficult to see this playing out as a 24-17 type of game. I think that'll only happen if there are turnovers, if there's failures in the red zone, which can always lead to unders too. But at the moment, I mean, these are arguably the 2 best offenses in football with the way that they're playing.
We'll obviously get more into this on Fantasy Football pregame, 11 a.m. Eastern on Peacock and the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. I'm Company Man. That'll be Sunday morning. Me and you, George the Geek, and of course Lawrence Jackson, number 1 seed George the Geek. Connor, given how high the total in this game is, are you starting the complimentary, guys like
Tim Patrick, right?
Right. Tim Patrick, Jameson Williams. Are you starting Amari Cooper or Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid? If Kincaid's back, which we expect him to be, like, are you starting Kincaid? Are you starting Amari Cooper with those other 2 guys with Coleman, and if Coleman and Kincaid are in fact active? Like, I think you're starting Cook and Shakir and obviously Josh Allen.
Definitely still starting Amari Cooper, just because I think they need to build that rapport as much as they can for the postseason, and it's going on the right. I think it's going to go in the right direction.
Targets went way up last week.
There's a lot of promise there. Like we've talked about with the Lions defense, you want to throw against them. I'd be hesitant on Keon Coleman returning from injury because we just don't know the usage.
Right.
Shakir's going to get his targets. We know Amari Cooper's going to get his targets. Kincaid, I find it hard to believe you have a better solution at tight end if he was your guy. Maybe you do. Like, are you starting Stone Smartt over him?
Right, of course.
Like, is that
Jay might. The great slappers are down
over
bad.
Tommy DeVito. Yes. I am starting Tim Patrick and Jameson Williams.
Okay.
Because I think there's a chance both can score. Jameson Williams is a big play machine. Tim Patrick is who Jared Goff is looking at in the red zone now.
Yeah. I mean, Tim Patrick, just with his size, with his, I think just his understanding of space as well in those tight areas. He's a guy who is now playing like 70% of the snaps and is the wide receiver 3 on perhaps the best offense in football. And also he's wide receiver and a 3 in a way that, like, Jameson Williams is the number 2 guy. Jameson Williams is a completely different player. Jameson Williams is Deshaun Jackson getting down the field. So Patrick, his ability to win in the red zone, I think makes him, I think Tim Patrick's a guy going forward that you expect is going to be like 5 for 40 with a decent chance at scoring a touchdown, which is very viable.
And Lawrence made a really good point on this show a couple weeks ago. With Jameson Williams at home, he's just a totally different player. He hit that plus money bet. So you feel good about Jameson Williams in this game. Good script at home. Our next game, guys, Miami at Houston. The Texans are favored by 3 points in this game. The over-under is at 46.5. Matthew, are you going to start Jaylen Waddle, who's been was a fringe guy, then felt droppable, and now out of nowhere he's back?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's sort of, proven it a little bit, right? I mean, you see him there. He's at wide receiver 28, so I'm starting him in deeper leagues. I have him in the league where I started Brock Purdy last night. I am starting Jaylen Waddle in that one as well. I'm in Scott Fishbowl. I made the final. Scott Fishbowl is this massive 4,000 person charity tournament. I'm in the final 500, so I'm starting. It's a very deep league. I'm starting Jaylen Waddle in that. Look, last week, season highs in targets and receptions. He's had a 20% target share in 3 of the past 5 games, and he's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game in those last 3 games. Now, this is somebody who had like averaging 8 points in his first 10. So I get if you're gun shy about Jaylen Waddle. Again, he's a wide receiver 3 for me, but it's worth noting over the last month, the Texans allow the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. The secondary is burnable. I think they'll focus a lot of attention on Tyreek Hill here. So I do think Waddle and Jonnu Smith should have nice games against the Texans.
Yeah, I think a key with the Dolphins as well is that you want to understand if the opposing defense plays a lot of man coverage. If they play a lot of man coverage, then that's good for Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who historically have been 2 of the best guys at beating man coverage. Tua lights it up. And the Texans play a ton of man coverage. That's how they play with D'Amico Ryan. So in theory, also in the Dome, this should be a good matchup for the Dolphins. I don't really understand why they're 3-point dogs. I'm not sure why the Dolphins are worse than the Texans, honestly, with the way that the Texans have played for, it's not just a few weeks now, it's been like 2 months where the Texans just have not looked right at all. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, they are playing at a really high level on offense. The defense is fine. It's like a mid-pack defense. So I think that the Dolphins will have success through the air in this one, and that Jaylen Waddle should be the beneficiary. Again, like they combined for 200-plus yards last week, Tyreek and Waddle. That was the expectation. They'd be doing that every second week. So perhaps they've gotten right.
Our last game, guys, is the Bengals traveling to Tennessee. The Bengals are 5-point favorites against the Titans. The over-under is 46 points in this game, largely because of what this Bengals offense can do. Jay, the bubble finally burst on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine last week. Is he still worth holding on to? Just one bad week.
How lucky are you feeling? It's just rolling the dice and hoping that it comes up NWY.
Yeah.
So, in theory, this should be as good a matchup as you could possibly imagine for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, given that the Bengals, their pass defense, their defense overall is terrible. The issue is that for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, last week was as good a matchup as you could imagine too, against a Jags team that gives up the most explosive plays in the league through the air, and he did absolutely nothing. So it's just really, I mean, it's very hard to project. If you're someone who's like in my position, perhaps he's the type of guy that you look for because he could have a 50-yard touchdown, but honestly, even then, there are probably better options out there.
He is a swing for the fences. If you started Cooper Kupp last night, if you started, one of these guys that just didn't show up, if you started Deebo, Brock Purdy, whatever, and you need some variance as Jay and the Grape Slappers do, then yeah, you can sort of swing for the fences, right? Because he is a big play waiting to happen. I will say that he had a 6% target share last week. 6%. Like, he's averaging less than 3 receptions per game. Now, what's happened is those 2 receptions or 2 or 3 receptions he's getting a game, like 1 or 2 of them are going for touchdowns. But like, if he doesn't score, he's not somebody that's going to get you there on volume. 45% of NWI's fantasy points this year have come from touchdowns. So it's just, to Jay's point, how lucky do you feel here? He's my wide receiver 47, so he'd be a desperation play for me, Connor.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you just got to hope for the one big touchdown because, as you said, Matthew, every stat tells you the volume isn't there. Like, the usage isn't there. You're praying, and this isn't a quarterback offense situation that I think they want to play with a lot of risk. Maybe, though, like you said, Jay, Cincinnati forces them into just having to play that way.
I just think that, like, there's just better options out there for people. Like, you're better off going with, like, a touchdown-dependent tight end. Like, I feel better about Jawan Johnson or Cade Otton.
Stone Smartt. Add that third T onto his name.
Because these guys at least have a bit more of a floor where you feel good that they're going to get 3 catches or something.
Right.
NWI might not do anything. You might just put up a 0.
Yeah.
Like my Cooper Kupp.
It also felt like, Connor, to me, that Will Levis, who had played better since coming back from injury, kind of took a step back last week.
And they're also being really cautious. Now you just wonder, does this staff fully trust Will Levis to be this? The best version of Will Levis, whether people love it or hate it, is a guy that can bomb the ball down the field, make plays with his legs, but when he makes a lot of mistakes, they get, a little, okay, let's dial things down a little bit here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Will Levis needs sort of chaos. He needs, like, he's got to be that gunslinger.
Like, find your Jordan Love,
right.
Will Levis. I know it's a lot to ask.
This might be it for Will Levis as a starter.
It's gonna be really interesting what they do in the
back
offseason.
up next year somewhere.
No, I don't
know.
I'm not
I
closing the book
don't
on
know.
Will
I don't
Levis
know
yet. I mean, like, look, he came into the league as a raw prospect. They were like, this guy's got a cannon for an arm, but he was, out of Kentucky where he wasn't asked to do a ton, and like, they're just. He was always supposed to be a developmental project, right? Like,
I was surprised he played as a rookie. I know he had to.
Right.
But he felt like a guy like, we'd really like to sit this guy the entire year. And the next thing you know.
He's gotten worse, right? He was better last year.
The start to this season was tough.
The start,
like giving away the ball
recently.
against the Bears and the Jets.
Even like the good game against the Texans, he took 8 sacks and threw a pick 6.
Yeah. But I'll also say, like, it's not all on him. Like,
it's not a great team.
It's
great
not a great
offense,
team.
I should say.
The line is bad. Like, there's a lot going on there.
That'll do it for what's on tap.
I'm still a Will Levis stan.
Presented, Connecticut's very own.
Yes.
Presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. We're taking our last break. When we're back, it's time for Last Call. Jay and I got our pickup lines for Matthew, our best bets going into the weekend.
Ooh, baby.
DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
It's yours. Crown is yours.
It's time for Last Call. Pickup lines. Here's our records. Jay is doing much better than me.
Yeah.
With a nice 5-3. I am 3-5. Am I 3-5?
Yeah, and I picked you 3 times, and I
Well,
feel
sure
like
that
I've
was-
always said this.
Yeah.
I say this to
I gotta
Steve,
fact
and
check
maybe
our
backup
team.
producer Pete will get this done. I feel like this graphic should also show like how many times I picked correctly. You know what I mean? Because sometimes what happens is like I'll go home with Jay, but your bet cashes, or vice versa.
Right. No, I think also we were pitching Denny last week, and I don't think that showed up on there, which both of them hit. Jerry Jeudy had 5 receptions. Drew Lock had the rushing yards. So,
You took Denny home.
so yeah, Denny and Jay.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's a big.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, what do you got?
Boy.
There was
Well,
some grape slapping going on. I get it.
Yes. Well, I dragged his name through the mud before, and I'm contemplating starting Tommy DeVito over him, Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson. But I'm going to go with Russell Wilson here. Russell Wilson, more passing yards this week than Jalen Hurts, is -115. Russell Wilson's averaged over 250 pass yards as a Steeler. Jalen Hurts averaged 200. The Steelers are 5-point dogs in this one, so you expect that they're going to have more of a throw script. Look, I don't think Russell Wilson's going to have an amazing day. I think he should be favored to throw for more passing yards than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
do too.
For me, Matthew, Brian Robinson Jr., anytime touchdown. I didn't even think this would be playable. Only -140 against the Saints. This is his best matchup of the year. He's healthy. He's had the bye.
Yeah.
His legs are under him. They're heavy favorites. They're going to run the ball a lot. If you've watched the Saints defense the last couple of weeks, they're in a tough spot against the run. I cannot believe this wasn't -200.
I'm the same way as well, and it may get there by game time as well. I'm going to choose. I've already said yesterday that Robinson is going to be my pick for our anytime touchdown parlay on pregame. So I'm going home with Connor, though I
Starts to
love
panic to the
that
crowd.
bet. I mean, like
It's the game.
It's exactly.
This is Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson bets every week. Unbelievable.
Blatantly sucked
The game
up to
is the
me,
game.
but that works.
Yeah.
It absolutely
There's going to be
works.
like
Take
a
notes.
Sean Figgins stolen
By the
base
way-
prop next week.
Yeah, maybe. By the way, or a bet that involves Pinot Grigio. I just, the fact is I think the stat I gave out was like no team's given up more rushing touchdowns this year than the New Orleans Saints.
And he's got 8 and 10 games.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're doing that. Listen, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. We'll see you Sunday morning for pregame. For Connor and Jay, I'm Matthew. We will see you this weekend. Good luck. You owe us, Cooper Kupp. Peace out.